Hello, the testimony I give is 100% true and 100% accurate. I have been reading about some things where people are fed up with their school systems where they live, and the terrible things school systems do and what's done to people, and basically gave me motivation to tell my story. I went to school in Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania, but I had to graduate Southmoreland High School. I never knew such corruption and backdoor politics existed. I went to kindergarten to second grade at Ramsey Elementary School in Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania. While I was in second grade, I went to the bathroom and I was sexually assaulted by three kids, and I was beaten up. I told my teacher and the principal, and my parents were called in, and they basically said, if I say anything, that I'm going to be punished too, that they're just going to chalk this up as a regular fight. And back then, my parents, they couldn't afford a lawyer. There was no such thing as the internet or cell phones or video surveillance. So basically, I was screwed. And, nothing was done about this. So, from my third grade year, I got sent to Catholic school. And let me tell you, it was called Transfiguration. They had a church and a school. I got educated there, not really in a good way. I have hyperactivity and ADD when I was younger, and it went untreated because no one wanted to do their jobs. And my parents, they kind of had their own problems to deal with. And, nobody understood none of this, man. This was like in the early 80s. But, I had problems learning in the classroom, but I had no problem going to the library and getting books and reading, which, that's kind of how I'd learned. And in Catholic school, we were also overloaded with homework. And sometimes I didn't get done till almost midnight. I never got to play too much when I was younger and when I was in school. And another thing that happened to me was we had a substitute teacher named Miss Tozy, however the hell you pronounce it, and she wouldn't let me go to the bathroom. Well, I went up a few minutes later and I said, "Look, I really got to go." She's like, "No, shut up, sit down. You're just trying to get out of doing your work." Well, when I sat down, I pissed myself, and she had to clean it. So, yeah, my mom come in. She wasn't too happy about that, and I think this teacher got in some trouble for it. I mean, nowadays a teacher gets sued for that, but, back then they didn't really do much shit. And I also learned how sneaky other kids could be. I was pushed by another student, and when I went to fight back, teacher broke it up, and the kid that started it said that I started the fight, and he got his friends to lie for him. And the way Catholic school worked was if your parents donated X amount of money to the church or they had a hand in the church and the school, you basically had a right to do whatever the hell you wanted, man. I mean, you got a license to commit murder. And, like a lot of this behavior was learned from the parents and the football coaches. And I was at a football game once where I seen a Mount Pleasant player, smack another kid upside his helmet, and the kid, went to go after him. And they got penalized him for going off sides. And these kids took it to the classroom, and I was kind of in no man's land. I didn't fit in everywhere. And my memory was, I believe I was in fifth grade at the time. We had to sell things for the school, and this extended to the public schools too. And if you raised the next amount of money, they threw a pizza party for you. Oh, I just made it by 50 cents. And we went up to, it was called the Elks Club, and they had it downstairs. So I went downstairs, I'm kind of sitting there, and then this one kid walked in. He was kind of overweight, not necessarily popular. And all of a sudden, the place just fucking rained with Porky, Porky, hey fatso, hey fat boy, Porky, Porky. And then the one kid had a straw loaded up pizza sauce and spit it all over this kid's white jacket, man. I mean, I felt like so sorry for him. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, I couldn't do, nothing about it because, I'd have been outnumbered. And I mean, these kids, they stuck together. They knew one another. And I mean, it was, it was disgusting, you know. And we were supposed to be supervised, but we weren't. The woman spent more time at the bar than she did, looking after us. And I even told her what happened, and she didn't really seem to care, because these kids, everybody knew everybody. The parents had money and everything. So finally, in spring of '85, I left Transfiguration. I was accused of pulling a razor blade or a knife or some shit on a student. A couple students, I think, conspired on this, along with a teacher who I caught doing coke in the coat room. And, well, they called the police. My rights were violated. My parents weren't present. I had no legal representation. I was searched. And, I mean, the nun was there, basically. And we had a church service that day, and she told me, she goes, well, don't tell your mom what happened. Don't say. Well, I did say something. My mom wasn't too happy, and her and my dad pulled me out of school that day. I mean, like I said, we couldn't afford lawyers or sue or anything, and again, cell phones and internet didn't exist, and I mean, I wish they did, because I'd have caught a lot of shit on camera, I mean, I probably wouldn't have had some of the problems I had. But I went back to Ramsey Elementary that spring, and I was so far behind in my studies because what we were doing in the fifth grade was equal to what they were doing in the third grade in public school. So I mean, yeah, it was really hard catching up. And then one of the kids I was in Transfiguration with, he went to Ramsey in December of that year. Uh, I mean, the year before. And when I went to Ramsey, the rivalry kind of picked up. I got in a fight with this kid, and his parents pulled him out of school because he lost a fight. And the Catholic school, they kind of hated me for that because these people were big contributors to the church. And there was another kid. His name was Larry Kiefer. He was giving me a hard time in fifth grade. He said I looked at his girlfriend or some stupid shit like that. I mean, it's just dumb shit. People just looking for an excuse to pick a fight with somebody. And I mean, he was bigger than me. So, even though I told which is what you're supposed to do, nothing was done, of course. And, but this would spark up later on when I'd go to junior high. But anyway, that year they had a talent show. I liked the rock band Kiss, and that didn't help matters out much. I sang King of the Nighttime World. I got laughed at on stage, so I stuck out a finger and stuck out my tongue. So they didn't like that too much. I lost playtime for all that. And our music teacher, Mrs. Giobbi, who ran the talent show, ripped up a picture they took of me on stage, thinking it was going to punish me, but like I really needed a reminder of what the hell happened. I mean, this woman basically was a Karen before the word Karen was even thought of. Real mean woman, just real bitch. So, anyway, sixth grade came around, and there were some girls who came in from the St. Pius Catholic School. One was named Kathy. She was a real bitch. And, her along with the other troublemakers, they made my life miserable. I didn't wear designer clothes or anything like that. My parents weren't rich. And, I just kind of had to wear what I got. And that year I also broke my arm in a bicycling accident, BMX bike back in the day. I mean, so anyway, my parents didn't really understand how the politics worked and what things were like in school. So we had a teacher named Mr. Smell who was a real asshole. He was assistant principal. And, he was always singling me out for shit. He told me they were using me to, use as an example. whatever that meant. So the one day he was gone, and we had a substitute teacher, and it was Pick on Dwayne Day, and it was just all day constant people picking fights, calling names. Nothing was done. I didn't know what to do. I took it and took it and took it till finally, at the end of the day, I exploded when the girl got a running start with a book and just ran down the aisle between the desks and hit me upside the head. And I mean, it hurt, and I blacked out for a little bit. So, I mean, I don't normally hit women or anything, but I grabbed this girl and I smashed her head off the desk. And anybody who got in the way, I was punching and kicking, and I actually blacked out. And I mean, that kind of scared me because what happened, and here it just turned out I beat up a lot of kids, and I actually took out a male teacher. So I was kicked out of school. But before that, I was taken to the office, and the secretary is like, "Don't let him get on the bus. Don't let him leave." Then when my dad came up, I said, "Oh, you told me to call your dad." I'm like, "No, I didn't. You said I wasn't allowed to leave." And oh man, it was crazy. They wouldn't let me back in school. I had to see a guidance counselor. Then they had a meeting with him and the teacher and a couple other teachers. And then they told my mom I was telling people I got an older woman pregnant, and I'm some Satan worshiping evil person or whatever, because of the bands I listened to. But yeah, I mean, just blame the victim. Like when I was sexually molested in the bathroom, and they hushed that up. And, Mr. Smell, too, he was also an asshole. He planted cigarettes in my locker one time. I mean, I started smoking in sixth grade, but, I was smoking Marlboros, and he puts a pack of some fucking generic brand in my locker I'd never heard of, and he'd try to get me in trouble for it. But, I mean, luckily my parents came in on that one, and the decision was made to socially promote me to the junior high, and that is another story for another time. But the public school system is just so corrupt. I mean, if you play sports, or you're rich, or you got a name or something, they'll go to bat for you and stick up for you. But I mean, if you're just a person, doesn't matter, like me, they'll give you a hard time and make your life miserable. I mean, and when I went to junior high, I mean, that started off a chain of events. And even when I was in junior high, I was also assaulted. I was sexually assaulted on a bus. Luckily I got away before it got too out of hand. So this is part one, and it is titled "My Time in School and the Future Damages It Caused." This is part one, and I'll be out with part two soon.